Shalom Aleichem Rabotai, this is Rabbi Kovacs, and we are continuing Mishnah Yomi, closing out the first chapter of Pesachim, and Bezrat Hashem starting the second chapter. Recall yesterday we started talking about ritual impurity, and the Mishnah brought a couple of cases where the Kohanim in the temple would go ahead and burn something that was less impure with something that was more impure, even though combining these items caused more ritual impurity to go into the less impure item, rendering it worse, more impure. Now, Mishnah Zayin has an application of this concept. Amar Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, Midivreihem lamadnu. From the words in the last Mishnah of Rabbi Chanina, Skana Kohanim, and Rabbi Akiva, who talked about burning the puzzle oil in a tamei lamp, lamadnu, we learn from them, shesorfin truma tahara, im tameya bepesach, that really it's erev Pesach, right before, the 6th hour of the day, we can go ahead and burn truma, which is a produce that was tithe. It's the tithe that's given to the Kohanim. We can burn it if it's tahora, totally pure, with tameya, with impure. We can put them together. Amar lo Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says to Meir, Eina hi min hamida. What you're saying is not a proper measure. It's not correct. What Rabbi Yossi is pointing out is that in Mishnah Vav, the items that were already tamei, a little less tamei, were still biblically contaminated. So to make them more biblically contaminated is not so bad because Lamaisa, at the end of the day, they're already contaminated. But to have truma tahora, that's really uncontaminated, totally pure, and to go ahead and burn it together with tameya, which is biblically impure, and to do this because the rabbis have told you, well, it's time to burn all the hametz now, well, that's not the same thing. And the Mishnah continues, and it's actually Rabbi Yossi bringing another argument over burning hametz, which is truma tameya, to explain his opinion. Modim Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yeshua, he says that both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua agree shesorfin zoila atzma, that if you have truma which is biblically pure, completely uncontaminated, you have to burn it li'atzma, by itself, and zoila atzma, meaning tameya, biblically contaminated, that you burn by itself. You don't mix them together when you're burning them erev Pesach. Alma nechleklu. So Rabbi Yossi is explaining where did Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua have a argument about burning things together or separately on erev Pesach, ala teluya v'ala tameya, on the suspended and on the impure. Now I've seen this lashon teluya meaning suspended, meaning you can't eat hametz, but you don't have to yet burn it. Here teluya means like it's hanging, as if we don't know if it's really pure or impure. There's a doubt. There's a suffix if this truma is contaminated or not. So do we combine this with really contaminated truma or not? Rabbi Eliezer, Omer Eliezer holds, to sarf zola atzma, you have to burn them separately. One, there's a doubt if it's been contaminated. The other one's definitely been contaminated. So even on erev Pesach, when it's time to get rid of your hametz, you have to burn them separately so you do not add any additional contamination to truma, which may or may not be contaminated. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Shtehen Gatot. Rabbi Yeshua says that you can burn the doubtfully contaminated, the teluya truma, with really contaminated truma, because at the end of the day, you can't eat it if it's a suffix contamination. If it's teluya, if it might be contaminated, you can't eat it anyway. You could go ahead and burn it with what's really contaminated. Wonderful. Let's move on to Perek Beis, chapter 2. Kol sha'ah shemuter lechol. For the entire time that it is allowed to eat chametz, ma'achil lebehema, you can feed it to your domesticated animal, lechaya, or to wild animals, le'ofot, and also to birds. And the Bartner here explains, he says what we're talking about. He says, Kol shasha mutter lekohen lechol betruma. Going from the last chapter, where Gamliel said during the 5th hour, the Kohanim can still eat their truma. So during that hour, that tolin hour, where you can't eat the hametz, we don't have to burn it yet, ma'achil Yisrael chulin lebehemto. The Bartner says any Jew, not just a Kohen, can feed it to his animals. The parlance we use is it's asur be'achila, you can't eat it, but it's mutter behana. You can still have a indirect benefit from it, such as feeding it to your animals. The Mishnah continues, umochro lenochri. You could also sell it to a non-Jew. The Barnura points out this excludes the opinion of Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says you can't sell it to a non-Jew unless you know he's going to eat it all up before Pesach. This opinion says not like that. Mutter behanato, and it's mutter to derive benefit from the hametz, meaning you've already put the hametz on the fire, it's becoming charcoal and hot ashes. You could still use that to heat up your hands in your house. The Mishnah continues, Avor Zmano, once the time has passed, we're in the 6th hour of the day, it's usur on a biblical level to have chametz and derive benefit from it. Usur bechanato, it's now forbidden to have any benefit from this chametz. V'lo yosik bo tonav kiroim, and you can't use it to feed your oven or your stove. You can't use it as fuel even. Now recall, this is unlike truma, the tithe that has become contaminated, where you could still burn it, the Kohanim can still burn it in their oven. Here by chametz, once chametz is usur, is forbidden to benefit, you can't even use it as firewood. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ein bir chametz, there's no real destruction of chametz ela sreifa, only through burning. That really burning it into ashes is the only way to truly destroy your chametz erev Pesach. V'chachamim omrim, but the other sages say, off mifarer, you could even crumble it up, v'zor leruach, and throw the little crumbs into the wind, o metil liyam, or throw it into the ocean. There's a discussion in the poskim if this ocean thing, if you have to crumble it up into crumbs first, or you could even throw your bagels into the ocean, if that's even good enough. Obviously, you're not talking about an ocean where little kids go in there and fish out the bagels and eat them, but something like a Yam HaMelach or something like a Yam Tichon, where it's big and no one's going in there to rescue the hametz. That would be a valid destruction of your hametz. Shabbat shalom and be well.